Hillary Clinton closing in on the Democratic nomination for president, and Bernie Sanders facing mounting pressure to drop out. But he is vowing to stay in the race, and some say that it's because he wants to use his leverage to shape Hillary Clinton's policy agenda. This, as we're hearing Clinton allies say the frontrunner's been pushed far enough and will start taking a harder line against Senator Sanders. Let's talk about it. Pete Snyder is former candidate for Virginia Lieutenant Governor, and a Fox News contributor, and Julian Epstein, former chief counsel for Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee. Thank you both for joining us.
Good morning.
Thanks, Heather.
Well, I'll start with you, Julian. How far left can she go?
Well, I think it's kind of like it takes a two wings to fly situation for Hillary Clinton. On the one hand, she needs the intensity of the Bernie Sanders supporters, and so she needs to treat that constituency and his supporters and him very carefully. On the other hand, she has to appeal to independents where her numbers have not been that particularly good. So she's going to have to try to manage both. I don't think Bernie Sanders has that much leverage. She clearly has an overwhelming advantage with both delegates and with the number of voters she's gotten. So I think she's in a pretty good position to push back and veer towards the center for the general election.
Yeah, but that general election, Pete, those independents will be important. So how does she walk that fine line?
I don't think she will. I mean, she's a Clinton. They named the verb. They have the verb triangulation because of the Clintons, and she's going to do exactly what those on the left really feared, is just run right in the center, and even some issues try to get to the right of Donald Trump. So there's a reason why younger voters distrust Hillary Clinton. It's there really isn't a core there.
So you don't think that she'll be pushed even further to the left? I mean, Bernie Sanders and his camp, they're trying to get her to go for free tuition, trying to get her to make fracking illegal, trying to get her to break up big banks. You don't think that she'll commit to any of that?
I think she'll try to do it with a VP pick. She'll try to either pick Elizabeth Warren or look at a liberal like Tim Kaine from Virginia, and then on core issues really tack to the right and try to go to the right of Donald Trump on a lot of different issues out there.
I think that's right.
Julian, go ahead.
No, I think Peter's exactly right. I think she's going to move towards the political center. I mean, I think look, Bernie Sanders makes good points about college education and making it more affordable. I don't think breaking up the big banks is the central economic issue we face. The central economic issue we face is getting back to 4 or 5% GDP growth. But look, the situation with the Democrats is most Democrats, if you poll Bernie Sanders supporters, say they'll vote for Hillary Clinton. Much different picture on the Republican side, where you have 4 out of 10 Republicans saying they think Trump is unacceptable, 5 out of 10 Republican women saying that Trump is unacceptable. Hillary Clinton is ahead of Trump by 10 points in almost every single poll, and his unfavorables, Donald Trump's unfavorables going into a general election, is 70%. 10 voters have an unfavorable view of him, an unprecedented unfavorable level. So on the Democratic side, you have a little bit of healing to do. On the Republican side, you've had a civil war with lots of Republicans saying that Trump is unacceptable and ready to defect as a result.
Clinton's unfavorables, hers are 54%, which isn't exactly great. And you mentioned the people that are not willing to vote for Trump. 25% may not seem like a lot, but it will be important when it comes to the general election. 25% of Bernie Sanders supporters say that they will not support Hillary Clinton unless Bernie Sanders tells them to do so, and so far he has not been willing to do that. So does she need to be worried about that?
And
Do you
Heather,
think he will?
Well, Heather, look, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. And imagine what happens when Hillary Clinton starts doing the very things that core Sanders voters thought she'd do, which is run to the right, which is triangulate, which is do all of the bad, Clinton politics of the 1990s. That's what they're fearful for. And she's tried to run as a, hardcore leftist. But, in practice, she's going to go right to to the right. And that support's going to crater.
Well,
she's going to have massive problems.
Yeah, she has been on the other side of the coin, though. Back in 2008, 50% of her supporters said that they would not pick or choose then Senator Obama to be president. But we know that switched all around in 2008, and they did end up supporting him.
And it always does. And look, the huge cleave on the Republican side, that'll get better for the general election. Right now, you've got 40 to 50% of Republicans saying they won't vote for Trump. That'll narrow. But it's a much bigger cleave on the Republican side than on the Democratic side is the point that I'm making. On the Democratic side, nobody really doubts that Bernie Sanders will endorse Hillary Clinton and tell his supporters to get out and vote for her. There will be some differences, but there's not going to be this huge kind of gulf, this huge civil war that has occurred on the Republican side. So it's much easier for Democrats to get to unification and then go after independent swing voters than it is for Republicans who have huge, at least if Donald Trump is a nominee, who have a huge deficit, not just with their own voters, but with women, Hispanics, virtually every other demographic group other than white males. So Republicans have a lot more making up to do than Democrats do in a general election if Donald Trump is the nominee.
Well, Rhode Island, the majority of the voters there were independents, and Trump did very well there. Bernie Sanders won that state. Trump also won over independents. I believe it was in Ohio. So we'll see what happens in the general election. Thank you both for joining us. Definitely appreciate it, and hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
So if you're